A paradigm shift shatters your illusions of what your world is like, and you see a new reality. It's a shift in your paradigm. Now, there's one that I'm trying to pull off here. Right now, everybody is condemning the police for the rise in killings of unarmed blacks. And yet, there's actually been a reduction in the killings of unarmed blacks by a factor of 10, it looks like. So, doesn't that change your paradigm to find out that the guys you're dissing actually have been doing 10 times better? Wow. So right now we've got the riots in the States, Black Lives Matter and Antifa and all these people making noise and destruction. And you got George Floyd's family appeals to the UN for support for U.S. police reform. So the police are getting worse. Something must be done. And of course, Black Lives Matter. They plan armed peace officers. They're arming themselves as they take over neighborhood in war on police. Great, great. Isn't that great? They're arming themselves. Now, I don't want this to be misconstrued because I'm a Trekkie. I was born, and my generation, we lived every Star Trek generation there was, from the very first I saw. And we had an ethos installed in us. It was about as systemic anti-racist as you can imagine. We don't only learn to accept all races, we learned to accept all species. We weren't even alienists, let alone racists. So now you look at, since then you've had all the salt and pepper movie, Eddie Murphy finding out that you can be friends with the white cops as you get the job done. And every Law and Order episode, and every cop show, lawyer show, medical show, military show, all of these shows have all got blacks in competent positions of authority. For my whole life, racism has been bred out of us. I mean, the United States is probably the most non-racist possible country in the world because they are closest to being able to be the Star Trek ideal of no racist and no alienist feelings. Now, of course, you might, I still hate the Ferengis because they, mark the cards with their nails and you got to switch in decks every 2 hands, but can't trust a Ferengi at a poker table, okay? But still, there's no reason for prejudice other than the Ferengis. Never played poker with a Ferengi. So, but that is the kind of prejudice that is not allowed in the world of Star Trek. It would be too stupid. So what's going on here that we had, look at 20 years ago, you could have Jimmy Fallon, Joy Behar, Ralph Northam, Justin Trudeau, all wearing blackface, and nobody was offended. What's going on? Well, they knew nobody would be offended because everybody would assume it was done as a joke and not to insult their friends. But now this generation, it must have been to insult their friends. Let's take them down. So not only were we, and of course, go after their jobs right away, The Bible calls it the alley where men weep and gnash their teeth. And isn't it satisfying when you can cut someone off from their paycheck and their life support tickets, right? And that's what they're always going after in today's world. So anyway, we now have so few racists out there that they got to go beat up on statues, and they got to go burn Confederate flags, and they got to take down Gone with the Wind, the movie. Whoa! So they got so few actual racists anymore that they got to go beat up the memories of the racists. Isn't that sad? So now remember, one last thing, I'm a professional gambler. 42 years I played with all races at the tables. And so there's no way I could have prejudice because that would not let me win as much as I should by being unprejudiced. Bias costs you money. So don't let your biases get in the way. So, and just recently they had another guy, Rappaport, resigns over a photo of him in a racially insensitive costume. Well, I can imagine if I ever shoot down to the old folks' home and I put on a serape and a sombrero with my accordion and go play Spanish songs, they're going to accuse me of racial insensitivity, cultural appropriation. How dare I pretend to be a Mexican playing these Spanish songs? So that's how crazy the world has become. Now, here is the ultimate paradigm shifting truth. Tucker Carlson a few days ago asked himself, well, look, they keep saying it's getting worse. Well, how bad is it? So he went and he found out. And he told us that there were 10 unarmed blacks who were killed in the United States last year. 10. 8 were justified, 2 cops were charged. Now, Washington Post says there were 14, not 10. Okay? But anyway, those are the 2 numbers from last year. Now, that's a data point. You know, that doesn't tell you about a trend. Are things getting better or worse? And by how much? You need another data point to be able to draw a line to see a trend. So, geez, I guess I might have been the only person, smartest man on earth.ca, who went and found the other data points in the past. How many killings of unarmed blacks were there in 2015? Wow. Mapping Police Violence reports 104. Well, what about 2014? Over 100 again. And now you got Trump with 10, and they're complaining. 10 times better under Trump than under Obama, and they're complaining. Doesn't that shift your paradigm when you realize that the cops are actually doing 10 times better than they used to? Or 7 if it's 14, okay? 7 times better minimum. So here we are, the whole world libeling them, calling them killers and brutal and the horrors that are going on with the police. Let me give you an example. Bam. Oh, by the way, 2014. Sweden erupts overseas. Black Lives Matter marching with Antifa, radical Islamists, and others. Well, in the States, they're blaming the white supremacists for marching with Antifa and Black Lives Matter. Okay. United States media trying to pin it on the white supremacists. Okay. That's them breaking into the stores. The guys with the KKK hoods on. That's them, the white supremacists. You seen many KKK hoods? Anyway, but still, Black Lives Matter marching with Antifa and the radicals. Well, actually, it's the looters, right? You got 3 classes going on in these demos in the States right now. Forget the white nationalists, they ain't there. You got the looters. They're showing up so they can grab, a purse or a pair of shoes or a cheesecake. Okay, they're to grab. And you got Antifa. Well, they're always there to smash and burn. Okay, mind you, if you're coming with a hammer to a demo, that's probably the smash and grab. You're coming with a can of kerosene, not. And then finally, you got Black Lives Matter, the trigger, the organizers, the guys who are saying cops are doing worse. Come on out and let's all protest this together and protest the cops doing worse. So, Antifa, they got an excuse for being there. They're always there to make trouble. The looters, well, 3 months of lockdown, most of them broke. They're there for the same reason, hoping the smashing gives them a chance to do some grabbing. But Black Lives Matter, they should know those stats. They should know that the cops are doing 10 times better. Okay, the number of unarmed blacks killed should be a number they should know, right? So if they do know, then they know they're lying about the cops as they're causing destruction all over the country. Black Lives Matter organizers may know they're stoking a hoax. Isn't that ugly? So, looking in London, police forced to run as protests throw bottles at them, okay? Are they filled with cement? And here's another one. Officers injured after protesters throw improvised explosives, okay? They're not real military explosives. They're homemade explosives. Not so bad. It's like CNN saying, oh, they're only setting small fires, not big ones, And the guy says, oh, it's mainly peaceful when he's got fire going on behind him. So media's covering it up. Okay, by making it sound minor, when setting fires is never minor, and homemade explosives can do damage too. Wow, they're only improvised explosives. Oh, okay, makes it all okay. And of course, the people have gone nuts too. The social justice warriors want to prove how much they love their black brethren and are now going after the cops because of perceived racism. Well, guess what? Your perception of the cop racism when they've been doing 10 times better is completely wrong. Isn't it amazing when you know the joker, the wild card of the argument that they all look stupid when you find out that, oh, cops have been doing 10 times better and you want to diss them? So anyway, perceived racism. And finally, Michelle Obama tells graduates to focus their anger on what? Cops doing better, 10 times better. And Obama says the old normal wasn't good enough. Well, that's right, Obama. Under your old normal, there were 10 times more unarmed blacks killed than under Trump last year, or 7 times more. Wow. So watch your mouth, Buster, when you screwed up so bad. Look at this. The DA in Manhattan, he's not going to prosecute the rioters and the vandals. He's going to let them all go. Boy, it's not going to cheer him on to going back. And here's the stupidest one of all. The Minneapolis City Council president aspires to have a police-free society. Defund the police. You know what they're going to do? They're going to sell. I mean, Allison Camerado asked her, she said, well, the guy's breaking in my house. Who do I call? And she said, many people have expressed that concern, but that's just your white privilege. Oh, who am I going to call? Oh, don't worry. That's just your concern is just your white privilege. No worry, okay? Everybody's worried about not being having anybody to call. Don't worry. It's just your white privilege. And now they want to defund the cops. And they're going to send social workers to deal with family disputes. Social workers to deal with the drunks. Get that, okay? Oh, guess what? This guy with a degree in sensitivity training is going to go explain to a drunken Bubba the Bruiser how not nice to break bones, okay? So, yeah. Tell me more about your social workers dealing with drunks. Oh, how stupid can you be? Especially when the cops have improved their performance by a factor of 10. White police officers wash the feet of black leaders. I mean, my God, they've cut back on killings by a factor of 10. How can they not get on their knees and wash the feet of the people for whom they've done so much better? Makes all so funny when you realize that the true stat when you got the wild card, right? You remember that little girl, that little white girl where the big guy, pointed a gun at her and said, get on your knees and apologize for being white. And the young woman got on her knees and she apologized for being white. This guy was so proud of having her, forced her to do that. He posted it on the internet. Okay. Maybe he didn't have a gun. Maybe he only had a switchblade. Okay. So either way, he made her get on her knees and grovel. And maybe he didn't have a switchblade. Maybe he had brass knuckles and hobnail boots. Whatever. He made her get on her knees in public and grovel and apologize for being white. And the reason he was mad is because he thought that cops had been hurting blacks more than normal. And that's why he did that to that girl. Probably that's about as close to a rape as I can imagine, what he did to her. And he posted it online, proud of it. And I'm sure there were lots of people who went, oh yeah, finally that white privilege is getting punished. Didn't I hear someone say, white children don't deserve innocence? So, I mean, the media, how'd they go from no racism 20 years ago to stoking the rage over what isn't even a bad event right now? Wow. It kind of proves that the media is a hypnosis machine, okay? They're hypnotized, and they're hypnotized into hating, and it drives them nuts, and they are. Look at this, Clyburn on Trump. This man is trying to ignite a race war. Trump is trying to ignite a race war when his police have cut back on killings by a factor of 10? Whoa! But they don't know the truth. And they never will, because guess what? It's bad enough when a site censors you, okay? But I'm censored by Discus. They rent the sites. So if you think being censored by a site is bad, imagine being censored by the guys who rent them the sites. So that's why no one's going to hear about the trend, the Trump trend, downward, big, okay? Except you now know it, and me. But it's not going to make it out anywhere because I can't comment on thousands of websites out there that use this platform, Discus. Sad, big ones, important ones. So, and again, Al Sharpton attacks the president, wickedness in high places. My God, while the world was getting less and less and less racist through the Star Trek years, you could always count on Al Sharpton willing to whip up any microaggression he could into a racist charge. Don't forget, all these people have taken courses at university in how to be offended at the slightest thing. Microaggressions. In the old days, you had to lynch a guy to be a racist. Now you just got to look at him wrong. See the difference? So, anyway, you've been tricked. You've been tricked by not knowing the data to be able to perceive the trend. And once you can see that the trend is down, big, all of a sudden, all the screaming looks mad, completely insane, doesn't it? It looks like lunatics. You know, the insane asylum's been emptied and people are running around screaming their heads off. And the reason they're screaming is nobody knows. Okay, the real truth. So that's a big scam. They tricked them with stats. Another big scam they tricked people with stats was global warming. Okay, I mean, I believed in it too until 2009. We find out that they've been fudging the numbers and hiding the decline since 1998. And 22 years later, it's still cooler than 1998. And they're still telling us it's the warmest years ever. So, I mean, there it is again. Bad statistics, fudged, fool the people again into spending money on air conditioners when global cooling's coming. No sunspots, right? We should be spending money on furnaces and storing up coal and oil for the cold times coming. So, and then the third one, well, that's the corona death rate hoax. Okay, and it says here the WHO lied and created a global panic. Second extensive study finds corona mortality rate is 0.4, not 3.4, similar to a seasonal flu. So they're finding out that the corona is similar to the flu. Now, I got this information from the Gateway Pundit, Jim and Joe Hoff, and they're the guys who published the actual death rates, where I saw that, wow, out of the hospitalized 250,000 cases, 240,000, there were 24,000 deaths. That's 10% of hospitalized cases. And how many deaths out of the estimated, 25 million cases? Oh, 0.1%. Okay, so you got 10% of hospitalized cases, 0.1% of estimated cases for the asymptomatic people we didn't know about. All right? Now they got the corona numbers, and it starts with 3,600 out of 181,000, and that shows 2%, not even 3%. But still, that's the hospitalization number. It's not the infection rate. So when I heard that Fauci talking about 3 to 4% of death rate, and I knew that the flu was 10, I went, wow, it's weaker than the flu. And now, another one, the CDC admits it's no more than a flu like in 1957, 58. So, not only was, now, here was the problem. Fauci did not compare the hospitalized death rate with the infecting death rate for flu. Now, we had a hospitalized death rate for flu and an infection death rate for flu. Well, he compared the corona's hospitalized death rate to the flu's infection death rate, 100 times lower. So he compared an apple to the corona apple, not to the flu apple, but to the flu grape. And then went in and scared Trump and said it's 30 times worse. So that's the big lie. Now, the second series of lies are they pumped up the numbers. Okay, CDC tells hospitals to list COVID as the cause of death on death certificates, even if you're just assuming it. You haven't even tested for it, or it only contributed. So the guy really died of a heart attack, but he had it, so put COVID. The guy died of drug overdose, put COVID. Dry alcohol poisoning, put COVID. A murdered guy, put COVID. A suicided guy, put COVID. And all those guys we put on ventilators, put COVID. Even if we stopped the ventilators because we found out it was killing them, 90% of them. So the number for corona has been pumped up. But without even talking about the pumping up of the corona number, I want to talk about the deflation of the flu number from the hospitalized 10% to the overall total 0.1%, that Fauci compared the 3% to come up to 30 times worse. So the CDC tells them to do that, pump it up. And last of all, worst, hospitals get paid $13,000 if they put down COVID, they suspected, and they get paid $39,000 more if they stick them on a ventilator, where 9 out of 10 die. So that's why the numbers are pumped up. And finally, the World Health Organization does a 180. Now says asymptomatic spread of coronavirus is very rare, which means that they lied to us. We didn't need social distancing. If you're not sneezing and sniffling, you're not shedding. Wow! We've gone through 3 months of all this social distancing bullshit over a flu that's barely transmittable. Wow! Well, I put it together into a poem. I'm going to read it now. And I've added that information in my last 2 quatrains. I titled it, Must Shake Hands and Hug Again to Break Spell of Fauci False Alarm. I'll shake yours if you'll shake mine. Time to hug again. When Fauci said corona deaths are 30 times the flu, would you have hit panic button sounding the alarm bell too? Yeah, 30 times, 2 million dead? Yeah, I would have too. Had Fauci told the truth, it's really only third as bad as the flu, would you have hit panic button, sounding the alarm so sad? No, I wouldn't have hit the panic button if I'd known it was weaker than the flu, right? Can't blame the chief executives for sounding the alarm. It's not their job to check if experts' models do more harm. But a chief engineer must check the model blueprint out to find out Fauci fudged the numbers. False alarm, I shout, because I'm the chief engineer. It's easier the simpletons into a scam to coax than to convince them that they've been taken by a hoax. Delay to cancel Fauci false alarm is costing lives. The nation quickest back to normal's nation that survives. It feels like we escaped a plague that came so very near. A panic justifiable, now hard to break the fear. Admit it's not so bad to end imaginary hell. We must shake hands and hug again to break pandemic spell. Asymptomatic is transmission with no symptoms seen. Not knowing who's a threat, the answer is to quarantine. Social distance remedied, the never knowing who would be infectious, even though they would be very few. But now we hear it won't transmit without a mighty sneeze. Like flu, no symptoms means no danger. Coping's now a breeze. It will be tough to break the spell. Get close again like yore, where we share cards and sit at poker table like before. So that scam was done with statistics again. So you got global warming, they fudge the numbers. You got Fauci fudging the numbers, and you got Black Lives Matter fudging the numbers. Well, they're just out and out lying about the trend. So that's the kind of stuff they can do to trick people like that. But even though, because of Fauci, you've been tricked into laying off 40 million people, maybe they say now the number of attempted suicides has gone up more in a month than in a whole year before. And of course, the family abuse and child abuse and, and misery and desperation and murders and violence, all gone up, and untold deaths are going to happen because of this lockdown. Ask a prison warden, hey, what happens after 3 months of lockdown? Okay. So anyway, but the point is, all that stress can be relieved overnight by fixing, reprogramming the banking system that's keeping you poor. I call this banking on earth as in heaven, without the usury. If Mr. Spock could at Computer Central all alone upgrade bad code to save a planet from the danger zone, no help he needed from the low-tech others with no clue. What Spock could do, the engineer says, I can do it too. If you had sugar daddy friend to lend you all you need till you're back on your feet, would that to stress reduction lead? Well, yeah, with rest of life to pay him back, no rush as it can get. Would you repay or stiff on friendly sugar daddy debt? Well, most people would not stiff the guy who helped them out. If you had sugar daddy's central bank for all you need, without the interest, would that to stress reduction lead? Yeah, same deal. with rest of life to pay it back, no rush as it can get, would you repay or stiff on sugar daddy banker debt? Well, guess what? I don't mind paying the bank back at all if you didn't charge me any interest. Why? The Spock upgrade for online Bank of Canada or Fed account, a sugar daddy credit card, no growth of due amount. When all your payments go against the principal of debt, you're someday out of debt. And that's as sweet as debt can get. So, smartestmanonearth.ca says not only can we get our numbers right and end the rioting and the protests, but we can give everybody an interest-free credit cards. And instead of them going out there looking to smash and grab something they can then try and barter and sell, give them an interest-free credit card and they'll go to the stores, but not to break the windows, but to walk out with stuff they actually want. So in tandem, the interest-free credit solves all of the headaches in repairing. Now, last thing about reparations. They talk about reparations. Well, the Northerners can say, hey, we fought a war to set you free. We owe you nothing. You know, we'll treat you fair from now on. And as for the Southerners, they can say, hey, the 1% were the guys who owned slaves, not us. We owe you nothing. Go chase the guys who profited from owning you. So here's the point. Of course, with an interest-free credit card, now they're not going to be bugging anybody for reparations because they got all they need. They're getting a fair game in the future. I'm not willing to compensate you for fouls in the past games if I'm willing to give you a fair game from now on. Got it? So, I don't want to hear anything about, oh, we suffered in the past, we were fouled in the past. Hey, how you doing in the future? Everything fair? Yeah, but we want to complain about the past. No, thanks. I'm not listening. So, that issue should be put to rest because we didn't do it. We're not responsible for it. And all we're responsible for is treating you fair from now on. And of course, an interest-free credit card makes that possible for everyone. Who's going to mug you for your Nikes when they can go buy their own? And then just work it off. Would all payments go against the debt? As sweet as debt can get. So, that is why Black Lives Matter owe an apology to the police for having libeled them by saying that their brutality has been getting worse when it actually got 10 times better. And they got to apologize. They completely lied about the police in what they told the world, and they should have known. These are the guys who should have known the statistics that Smartest Man went and dug up. Nobody, I mean, like I say, nobody, Tucker dug up the 1 point. Good for him. Hey, that's pretty low. But I went and dug up the trend. Low, it used to be high. Wow. So now that you have seen the Trump trend downward and big, then you know that all of that hoopla going on out there is all mental illness. Hypnomedia pushing the people into a rage over a made-up boogeyman. Like they've done before with the corona. Oh, fear, 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 And like they did before with the sky's on fire, we're all going to burn, as we've been freezing for 20 years. So, the panic mongers hopefully can be nullified and beaten off with this incredible paradigm shift when you find out that Trump's cops actually did 10 times better instead of doing worse. Paradigm shift galore.